Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on which security testing approach is right for you. Breach and attack simulation, automated pen testing, or both. We're here to talk about some of those things today, and we're going to have a very dynamic and interesting discussion. My name is Mike Lennon. On behalf of Security Week, I'll be the moderator for today's program. A couple quick items on logistics before we get started. This will be recorded. So if you want to share it, watch it again, you'll get a link to the on-demand recording shortly after we conclude the webinar today. Additionally, we do these live for the reason of keeping them interactive. So submit your questions through the Q&A box, and we're going to try and get through as many as we can. We did reach out to a number of people prior to get this webinar going and fielded a number of questions, which we're actually going to be talking about. I think we've got a dozen or so questions already that we're going to go through as part of this presentation. But please submit your questions, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So with further ado, I want to introduce our speakers today. We have Volkan, Dr. Suleiman, and Rob. Can I just have you guys kind of go around the horn and introduce yourselves quickly and a couple words about you for background before we jump in?
Sure, I can jump in. Hello, everyone. I'm Volkan, one of the co-founders and the CTO. Been in cyber for more than 20 years, based in Tampa, Florida. Nice to meet you all. Excited for the session. Suleiman.
Hello, everyone. This is Suleiman. I'm a co-founder of Picus and also VP of Picus Labs. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic today because I'm looking forward to sharing insights, answering questions, and helping everyone here understand how breach and attack simulation and automated penetration testing can make a difference in their security strategies. Thank you.
Okay, and Rob? Yep.
And I'm Rob here at Peak Conversation. Been in time, and we're having this conversation.
All right, thank you, Rob. You're just chopping up a little bit, but hopefully good. Just a couple things on the agenda we're going to go through. Volkan, can you kind of take me through what we can expect today?
I'd love to. So, like, everyone is really familiar with breach attack simulation terms and automated pen testing, but there are like good number of variants in the market in that understanding. So we want to really go over the key concepts. Then, like sometimes a picture is 1,000 words. So we want to really do a sneak peek, like 1 minute-ish demo of each of those technology. To really see how it goes. And we, as you said, Mike, like we had good number of questions we collected throughout the week. So we organized those questions over the different use cases. We decided to, you and I really discussed that one through the week. So we discussed that to group it under the different use cases. So like under the use cases, like the blue teamers, red teamers, like the persona type grouping we have. And yeah, after that 14 questions, I hope we will have time. We'll see how it goes, but we are also very welcome to live Q&A part. So that is how the hour looks like.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. Like I said, preparing for this was a lot to cover and some really good questions and good topics. But before we jump in, we're going to do kind of a live poll here for the audience to kind of get a pulse on things. So you'll see it pop up on your screen. The question is, which security testing approach are you currently using? We've got a multiple choice question here. So it's automated penetration testing, breach and attack simulation, combination of both approaches, or nope. Hopefully you're looking into this for that reason that you're on the webinar today. So we'll give everybody a few seconds to answer that, and then we will continue on and dive right in. All right, here. So we already kind of talked about what to expect, but Volkan, do you want to talk anything else about what we are looking forward to today, or should we go right into some of the concepts that we're going to talk about?
I can take that one. I can take that one. Just to set the stage a bit before we get going, this isn't a debate about which technology is better. Picus brings both breach and attack simulation and automated pen testing capabilities together in one platform, so we see value in both. They serve different purposes, and depending on your organization's needs, one might be more immediately impactful than the other. What we're aiming to do is to share some perspective, and based not just on our own product, but what we're seeing more broadly in the market. So we spend a lot of time tracking how teams are using these technologies and where they're seeing success and how the landscape's shifting. So the goal here is to help you think through which direction might deliver the most value for your organization, like right now. And it's not about picking sides, it's about choosing what works best for you.
Okay. Okay. So Suleiman, as kind of the head of the Picus Labs, can you kind of take us through kind of an introduction to each of those concepts, kind of get some people up to speed for those who aren't familiar with some of these testing protocols?
Of course. Let's start with breach attack simulation, or BAS for short. Think of BAS as your continuous stress test for security controls. It's like having a friendly hacker constantly checking your defenses, but without causing any actual harm. So BAS safely simulates real-world cyber attacks and verify if your existing security systems, for example, your firewalls, your endpoint protection, your detection tools, EDR, SIEMs, they are actually doing their jobs properly. So it's proactive and risk-free, and ensuring your defenses can detect and block threats in real time. Automated pen testing, it complements BAS, but takes a slightly different approach. For example, automated pen testing actually looks for exploitable vulnerabilities, and also it identifies potential attack paths in your environment. So BAS looks for gaps in security controls. Automated pen testing looks for exploitable vulnerabilities and attack threats. So automated pen testing identifies how an attacker might navigate to your systems to exploit weaknesses and gain access, and providing insights into specific vulnerabilities. So these vulnerabilities that could lead to significant impacts, such as domain admin compromises. When comparing them, a useful way to think of it is like BAS focused on continuously validating your security controls, and it provides a constant baseline and catch misconfigurations very quickly. Automated pen test dives deeper. It tests how a real-world attacker could exploit vulnerabilities and attack paths. And regarding the deployment of these solutions, they offer flexibility. BAS typically uses an agent-based approach, install lightweight agents on systems. In automated pen testing, they usually deploy a temporary stager, like attackers without installing persistent agents, they initiate automated pen test scans. So this method allows automated pen testing to mimic real attackers without needing a permanent installation. And they can be installed as a SaaS solution on cloud, providing easy setup and management from the cloud. And also they support on-premises for organizations that require solutions managed within their own infrastructure. And even they provide support for air-gapped environments. So it's ideal for highly sensitive systems, completely isolated from external networks. So together, they form a powerful combination of proactive and comprehensive security validation.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think you said it, Vulcan. The picture's worth 1,000 words. So I think if you could, we'd love to kind of see some of this in action with a little bit of a demo, if we can.
Yeah, let's do it. Definitely, the motivation is not boil the ocean, but let me go fast. Mike, can you see my dashboard?
Yep, you're good. I can see your screen right here.
So that's the platform dashboard. Like, I don't want to really pitch a lot around this, but you see Picus has different products, like putting exposure validation and exposure management journey together. But today we're going to focus on security control validation and pen test automation product, which is attack path validation. So diving in immediately to the breach attack simulation product of Picus. So what you here see is like a dashboard. What's your security posture look like in terms of prevention and in terms of detection? And this score has been is calculated from the threats that has been blocked and not blocked in your environment, and the detection score has been calculated from the telemetry data that has been generated in terms of logging and alerting, or you don't have the visibility with no logging and no alerting in your environment. So let me go into like the logic, because like we don't want to really do like a technical demo, a deep demo today. So we want to really as following Süleyman's explanation about the concepts. So breach attack simulation is agent based. So what is expected is you have golden images in your environment. Let's say you have 2 golden images. To simplify the picture, you have the headquarter users, and let's say you have the servers. So what we expect is saying like, hey, for the headquarter users, you have a golden image. Please deploy that one, harden the image with the security policies and everything. Don't dispatch to a user, but assign a Picus agent or a breach attack simulation agent to validate the control effectiveness on that device. So this is how you can deploy agents and run on an ongoing basis. So the goal is the simulations, emulations you are running will not ever escape the box. That's the beauty of the system. So it's risk-free, that you 100% sure that, hey, something is not right in my system. Hey, is it like the pen test automation really did a brute force to lock my account? You never think about that one. On the BAS side, you can run 724, 365 on that box. If something goes wrong, like rarely I see in the 10 years, maybe a couple of times blue screen of that in edge cases with conflicting with an AV. So in such cases, like you only have a machine reboot. That's it. Other than that, no system is impacted. So you can have those agents in Windows, Mac, Linux being installed. You don't have to install it as a service. So you can have the portable versions. So you can easily drag and drop a binary and run it. So that is how you have the agents. When you have the agents, then your goal is, hey, I want to run some simulations. I want to see my readiness against the threats. It can be emerging, it can be greenfield threats that are relevant all the time. So Picus has a built-in the most extensive threat library. What you can do is you can search for anything particular in the search box, or you can look into different attack vectors. For example, by Lion, just a ransomware. So I'm just searching that one. I see different opportunities to test my environment. So Windows endpoint vector, like a post-exploitation scenario here. What are the Lion gang has been using to infiltrate data, to infiltrate their code into network through email. So we can see things like that. So if you look into this, you can see in the infiltration, they're using a file, which is a binary executable, and we provide the virus total link, so you can really go and make deep analysis. And we also enrich this data with the CTI feeds you have in this one. You're using the Picus CTI feed, but you can also use your other threat intel feeds. So you can say anything streamlined from my threat intel is relevant to my threat profile. So you can easily build simulations based on what your threat intel provided. So we really bridge the threat intel to your validation program. And the best part is, hey, I run this one, it's not being blocked. So what can I do? What are my security controls in my environment? So if I have Palo, because it's highlighting that, you can really pick this signature and enable that, then boom, you can really block this threat in your environment. And what will happen if the malware is landed to your operating system? So that is the post-exploitation phase. So Picus Red Team, which we have 20 red teamers working around the clock. We have 24-hour SLAs to really address the emerging threats. And you may be seeing our blog post that we are writing about what is upcoming, and we add those campaigns under 24 hours. We have a back sound, back voice there. So what you see here is the post-exploitation techniques. So what will the Lion ransomware gang do once they land to an operating system? once they land to your environment. So you can see how they add a backdoor user using a user command. So we even share like how they do this one. And the best part on the breach attack simulation, anything that being emulated or simulated, there's always a rewind process to clean up the traces. So we are always be sure that we just leave the operating system in its best version, so no artifacts, no issues left on your side. But always the breach attack simulation is giving you evidence-based result. Hey, this CTP is executed. Here has been the response from your security controls. So that is like understanding the basics. So the idea is if we click this one, hey, I want to run everything in the byline or APT40, FIN7, or you can say micro emulation plans like privilege escalation attacks or XSS attacks, or I want to try to exfiltrate PII data, or I want to do like malicious URL access tests or anything, or the blend of that can be really easily be scheduled. And in this case, I pick a couple and I choose an agent. And as you can see, which protocols I want to run those emulations, which users, like you can provide multiple users with standard, with admin rights. So you can choose one or multiple users, and you can say that, hey, I want to run a large test and I want to really be sure that the extended execution is running smoothly. So with one click, you can run that one. So we are rush on time, so I don't want to really run this one, but just jump what we already simulated. So once the simulation is done, what you're going to see is each of the thread, you get the result. And those results are summed up together. And you see in this sandbox environment, which is protected by Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike on the EDR, and Splunk as the SIM. But it's not really following the best practices. It's just maybe the defaults, even some on-purpose mistakes have been made in the lab environment in the range. So you get these results. And what we see here is that's the value of breach attack simulation. Hey, we are not really trying to find like one thread, is it being blocked or not? You get every detail. So you see that it is being executed over HTTPS only, and on HTTPS, you see everything is being blocked and it has been logged. And on the email side, you see that it's not being blocked. So in a pen test automation, the expectation is if like the implant find the way to bypass your security control, it move forward to the next stage of the campaign. But in breach attack simulation, if you want to get more answers, which you can configure, in our case, we configure that, hey, show me the whole impact of buy online. So we configured this one, 5 different TTPs, variants of buy online malware. So although it is being not blocked, breach attack simulation doesn't stop and give you the whole picture, because think about the adversary, like assume yourself an adversary, like you try a technique, it's been blocked, you try the next one, you find it, and you get in, right? So as defenders or as red teamers, threat emulation scope, we all want to be sure that we cover all the relevant TTPs here. And what we also see as the defenders here is that we're gonna discuss, I know that we have a good number of questions on this one, but what you're gonna see is once that simulation is done, breach attack simulation is integrated to your EDR and SIL. In this example, we do the integration with Splunk. So running those simulations in a safe environment, and breach attack simulation of Picos integrate with Splunk and ask a query. Hey, I ran a simulation, give me the logs and alerts. Splunk returned 6,835 logs and 11 alerts. Then the real call is, hey, okay, this is too much, right? So it's like a haystack, so we naturally need the needles. So then we have a Picos dictionary, which is really identifying the relevant attack methods only and discarding rest, and saying like, actually 116 logs are there, validated for you, and 6 alerts are relevant. And anything you want to see, rest of the haystack, it's there for your reference. If you want to really do a sanity check there, you can look into that. And we don't stop here, and we map to the TTPs out there. So what you see here is adding a backdoor user. The payload is this one, and one is executed. What's the terminal output? We have an evidence that is executed. And on the log side, we're going to see actually process creation logs. And on the, if you want to get the sysmon details, it will be a big log, but Picos can fetch all the evidence that you have in Splunk and really show it to you there. And on the other side, so what is the Splunk is alerted for that? So it gives you an end-to-end visibility for a single thread, or you want to really get the whole picture. So we can get the whole picture, which is going back to the simulation detail. So how is your log sources responded, and what your security controls you have against this one. Actually, I was wrong. I said that it was Palo Alto. Actually, it's Checkpoint. So Checkpoint is responded into that. We have multiple gateways. So this one ran through the Checkpoint. And on the other side, you see which alerts has been triggered for that one. So that's it. And like the goal is, okay, now I have the visibility, how much I'm doing in prevention and detection. And actually it's not there. It's just you're starting, because now you have a problem awareness. Then you need to go to a response part, how you can really respond into that to improve your posture. So that's the whole magic of breach attack simulation. Then it takes you, hey, what do you want to do? Like you want to improve your gaps, perfect. For example, blind ransomware on the endpoint. So we provide detection recommendations, prevention recommendations, and generic hardenings in your environment. So let's look into detection for the sake of time. So what we say is that on the Picos side, hey, get username via PowerShell. This is a highlighted. You need to start from this one, and you can then following, you can look into this one. And at this point, what is Picos recommending you is actually writing a rule in your detection environment. So in our case, we are using CrowdStrike. So what you see here is the content recommendations for CrowdStrike. If you want to do threat hunting, here's a threat hunting query. If you want to really look for an automated deployment and moving forward, if this happens again, you want to get an alert, boom, you deploy this query and you get alive about this one. So that's like the happy path. I'm just stopping here because of the to mind the time there. I hope it gives like an end-to-end, a small idea about how it runs. Moving to pentest automation, as like I just running out of time, I want to really jump into one of the simulations. It helps. So let's start from the map view. I like this view. So as Süleyman discussed on the pentest automation, you start on a stager. It can be a machine that is deployed for pentest automation, or in the Picos part, we can provide you a binary. You can drop that binary to any computer in your network or your third-party network. Then that is where it starts. It do the reconnaissance, and like every step is defined here. So like what is being streamlined is like from the Active Directory, session enumerations, ADCS, checking user groups, like local enumerations, and everything has been being discovered in the network. Then it is finding opportunities to be deeper in the network. In this one, for example, credential access, LSS memory dumping has been done. So finding password dumping opportunities, but no credentials found. So its system is trying. And as you see with the reconnaissance it made, so it is doing a lateral movement from one device to in the same device to another user context, which is the HR user. So then from there, like with that context, it is doing the same stuff again. And from HR user, it's just moving to the local admin space. Then jumping to another machine. So when you log in, when you zoom in, you can see that how the system is navigating. So this is like a small lab environment, but just imagine that you have 1,000 or 10,000 systems in your environment. So it's like a huge map, and you can see how the branch goes in depth. And at the end of the day, the objective that is executed here is obtaining domain admin privileges. And what you see here is how the path started, what is the path being processed, and you see all the evidences there. And like all the technical details are there. So if you want to really get the list of exposures, here is the exposures, like what are the findings and what's the criticality of them. So map to MicroAttack for sure. So you can consume it from here, you can export, or you can really integrate with the ticketing system. And that's perfect. Like, but how we're gonna pitch it to our team? So there's also a summary part. So starting from this machine, which is HR01 system, then it starts like doing the discovery. These has been discovered, credentials access, what has been done, lateral movements, what has been done. So you also get an executive summary on that one. But as we discussed, you define an objective, and the red team of the pentest automation is really interacting with all your network to dump all the data to be sure that it is building the smart ways to hit the objectives. And throughout the path, it's just identifying all possible vulnerabilities out there. So in a nutshell, I would say, sorry taking it a bit long time, Mike, than expected, unanticipated, but yeah, I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, no worries. That was looks like a pretty fun tool to play around with and probably find some interesting things. But let's dive in now into some of these questions, because that certainly raises some questions on my end here. And so the first question, we put this first for the reason of I guess these tools can maybe be scary to some people. So Sonia, I'm going to ask this one to you. Are these technologies risk-free, and can we safely run these breach attack simulation and automated pen testing tools on production systems? Kind of tell us about and maybe comfort some of our fears here.
Yeah, this is a very important and common question. Many people ask when we talk about running tests in production environments. So the short answer is yes. These technologies are specifically designed with safety in mind, of course, but they differ slightly in their approach. Let's talk about breach attack simulation first. BAS is built to be non-intrusive by design. So it safely simulates real-world cyber attacks within controlled boundaries, actually. So it never actually escapes the box, as mentioned by Volkan, meaning that it doesn't spread beyond the test scenario. So this makes it ideal for continuous security checks, because you can confidently run breach attack simulation tests even during business hours without worrying about disrupting your operations. And you can think of it as a safety net that continues to verify whether your security controls are effective without ever putting your systems at any risk. On the other hand, automated penetration testing interacts a bit more directly, because it's designed to uncover actual exploitable vulnerabilities by attempting controlled exploitation, of course, and it essentially mimics the actions of real-world attackers. So unlike BAS, automated pen testing can occasionally escape the box, because it tries to validate whether an attacker could realistically move deeper into your systems. However, and this is so important, this test both breach attack simulation and automated pen tests include strict safeguards like built-in abort conditions and kernel controls, like stopping them, resuming them, etc. And in practice, teams typically monitor automated pen tests more closely to quickly respond if anything unexpected arises, since it's a more hands-on validation process, allowing you to discover the actual paths an attacker could exploit. So in conclusion, with proper setup and controls in place, both are safe and incredibly effective ways to ensure your defenses are not just theoretical, but truly robust against real threats.
Okay, thank you. And did we want to talk about any of the kind of blue team use cases for these tools? As Volkan, maybe chime in here.
Yeah, we can do that. Like as we discussed, we organize the questions around the blue team use cases. So over the questions, Mike, we can go over that. Like maybe we skip the introduction part on the blue team use cases, because I was a bit longer than expected on the demo.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, let's jump into questions to be sure that we cover all the questions, because we have a commitment to deliver all the 14 questions there.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got question number 2 here. So Vulcan, I'll give this one to you.
Okay.
Can both breach and attack simulation and automated pen testing be used effectively for ongoing security posture and tracking baselining? So is this not something you do once a year, but maybe continuously?
Yeah, I love this question. So actually, breach attack simulation or security control validation is my PhD thesis topic, like a decade ago. So the idea about this, if you're looking into reporting or posture tracking, your security controls is always saying like, hey, I blocked this from China, I blocked the XSS or a skill injection. So they just don't really help you to provide the executive level of reporting. So the need is, hey, tell me what's working, what's not working. So I'm not interested attacks from China, Russia. Like they're important, glad you protect us from those, but tell me like what moves the needle. So the idea is, with the pen test automation, automated pen testing, what we are reporting, or what with vulnerability management, what we are reporting. Hey, these are the vulnerabilities that has been, or misconfiguration or weaknesses that have been discovered in your environment. Perfect. Automated pen testing takes us to the next level and talking about which one vulnerabilities are validated through exploitation, so you can see the risk side of those vulnerabilities chained together to get together a whole campaign which can be leveraged by the adversaries. But this is, although it's meaningful in terms of how many vulnerabilities I have, what's the cycle I'm doing the remediation, mean time to response and everything. But it's all about like the business dynamics. If you're adding more applications, more system in your environment, then you boost your vulnerabilities, weaknesses in parallel too. So like if we have an increase in our vulnerabilities, does it mean that our red teamers, our pen test automation is doing better, or as an organization we are doing worse? So following the best practices, etc. So it's like a lot of questions to dig in. On the breach attack simulation side, I find it really easier to communicate and collaborate. I see more widgets we have on our risk dashboard, our CISO dashboard on the BAS side than automated pen testing. The reason is that breach attack simulation is also talking about what are your strengths, what is working in your environment. Because as the security teams, our problem is like they don't remember us, they don't know us throughout the year until an incident. And if the incident occurs, like we are the bad guys, like the goalkeeper, right? So the idea is how we can really share our strengths, what we are doing right, and how we are really adding value to the organization. And it's about talking about our coverage, how our strengths, how good we are doing in terms of the preventive and detective controls we have. So breach attack simulation is running those attacks, and what is being blocked, what is being logged, what is being alerted. So it's also talking about the full part of the glass. It's also important because when you report about the empty part of the glass, like even like my business partner, our CEO is also saying like, hey, welcome, we have these vulnerabilities, patch them. I don't want vulnerabilities. Like that's a business risk. So that's right. Everyone is asking the vulnerabilities to be patched. Everyone wants really like minimum gap, no gap, but it's like the reality is not there. So the idea is how we can really blend the reporting, saying like these are our strengths, this is where we started, this is how our competitors in the industry, in the geography, other organizations are doing. So comparing contrast where we are and how we can improve ourselves and what's our speed compared to the industry. So Picos breach attack simulation is providing all that insights. So it's helping you understand, are we ready for a threat group, how ready we are, how effective we are using our security tools. And that is also, I see more value add in terms of the executive level of conversations. So both adds value, and without the one of them, it's missing. So based on the need, what is the expectations on the executive level, you can really decide how you blend the reporting there.
Okay, excellent. All right, we got our next question here, and I'll direct this one to Suleiman. For continuous validation and timely detection of configuration drift, would you recommend BAS for automated pen testing? And of course, why?
Great question. For continuous validation and timely drift detection, breach attack simulation would be my recommendation. Let me explain why. First of all, think about configuration drift as tiny changes that occur quietly in your environment. For example, a WAF rule, verification firewall rule accidentally modified, or SYN rule being turned off. So these changes might seem minor at first glance, but even the smallest misconfiguration can open the door to significant security risks. So that's exactly where BAS shines, because it runs breach attack simulation, runs continuously, providing real-time security validation. Think of it like a constant guardrail, always active, and ensuring your defenses are exactly where you left them. For example, if last week your endpoint protection stopped all simulated ransomware attacks, but this week the same simulation unexpectedly succeeds, BAS immediately flags this change, and this instant alert tells your team something has shifted. Maybe a policy was weakened, or an EDR agent went offline, or there is some other unintended configuration change. On the other hand, in automated penetration testing, of course, it also has an essential role, but its role is different. Automated pen testing is fantastic for periodically verifying realistic impacts and deeper vulnerabilities. However, because it focuses on identifying complete attack paths, it's less suited for catching incremental drift immediately as it occurs. So you will detect drift indirectly and at intervals rather than instantly. So in conclusion, to sum up, BAS offers continuous real-time drift detection and immediate alerts. So it's ideal for ongoing assurance and rapid remediation. Automated pen testing provides periodic assessments of vulnerabilities and attack paths. So it's critical for validating realistic impact, but less effective at real-time drift monitoring. So for immediate drift detection, breach attack simulation is the best choice to stay ahead of potentially costly misconfigurations. Mike?
Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry, am I muted?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, so Rob, I'm going to ask this next one. I'm going to ask you to answer this next one. Is how well will breach and attack simulation and pen testing tools fit into, an existing security ecosystem?
Yeah, integration is always. Yeah, integration is always one of the biggest concerns when you're adding new capabilities to a technology stack, and that includes a security program. So BAS fits naturally into security ecosystems because it's built with integrations in mind. So SIEM, EDR, CTI firewalls, you name it. The important point is that you have these integrations because BAS isn't just generating signals or standalone output. It's validating whether your existing tools are actually detecting, responding to simulated threats the way you would expect. Automated pen testing is a little narrow in scope, so its integrations are going to be more limited. So ultimately, depending on your goals, you'll need different integrations. But these tools are built with this in mind, and either will improve the utility of your existing tools, which means it's going to boost the value of these other tools that are already in your environment. And so with all of this, there should be an expectation that you'll be more quickly and more easily able to address security posture through these integrations and by virtue of the integrations.
All right. Okay, we've got a whole bunch of questions here. Okay, question 5. We've got, I guess, Volkan, this one might be good to go back to you on. But how specifically do BAS and automated pen testing help us improve our detection, visibility, and the SIEM EDR rule effectiveness and detection engineering process? So a little bit more technical here.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot here. Let me do my best. So as in the demo, I just briefly talk about the EDR, actually Splunk integration. So the idea is with the breach attack simulation, I call it like dynamic testing in the application. When you deploy the application, it's live, and you run application scans, which is the dynamic testing of the applications. I also see breach attack simulation is like that from one angle. So what we are doing in the BAS space is, as we run simulations on the endpoint, what do you expect the EDR to kick in, the event logging, Sysmon, PowerShell logging kind of log sources to kick in. So actually you generate the telemetry there, and the telemetry is pushed to the EDR and the SIM in parallel, most probably. And like the logs are being collected, parsed, and processed, and the alerting has been alerts has been generated. So that's the whole pipeline, all the journey in the production of the detection engineering. So the idea of breach attack simulation is running atomic tests to be sure that each of those known potentially malicious or real malicious TTPs being either logged and preferably alerted. So you have the logging, then you know that your threat hunting environment, logging environment is healthy. And if you have the alerts, then you can run the detection and response processes. So that is the huge value of the breach attack simulation, because if you have a healthy logging, if you are working with shared responsibility with an MSSP expect you, hey, you need to have the logging healthy so that I can really do my detection engineering, my detection response process over to you. Or for the security operations center team, it's like more about, hey, we have the healthy logging so our incident response team, our detection engineers can really write the rules and can do the threat hunting properly. So that's the health of the infrastructure, and the whole process is there. And that's the dynamic nature of validation. What we see is that in terms of this reporting, which areas the SIM and the EDR has effectiveness or has issues has also been highlighted. For example, you can see that, hey, privilege escalation attacks, our SIM is not really providing anything. Just imagine like everyone is using MITRE ATT&CK. In a MITRE ATT&CK, you can see the whole map saying like which areas you have the logging strengths and the weaknesses, therefore alerting to. So that's really help you to see the whole process. And from that one, you build a strategy saying like you want to really start from right to shift left, or you want to really focus top 10 MITRE techniques, which Picus has been writing a Picus Raise report every year highlighting top 10, and a couple of vendors are also doing that. So you can focus on top 10 as your strategy, or you want to focus on different strategy. So that really gives you mobilization, and the process is what we are always getting inquiries as, hey, I have Splunk, I have QRadar, or I have XYZ. What is the right detection rule I want to have? Because in the community, there are like hundreds and thousands of rules, but creating performance problems at all. So not really matching your log sources. So Picus content recommendations and auto deployments is adding value on that part. In the automated pen testing, like the nature is very dynamic, like interacting with lots of systems. And automated pen testing is more about, hey, I provide the findings and I can export them to Splunk, your ticketing system, or other systems. But the nature of that business is not really integrating with your environment in terms of what are the logs, what are the alerts generated following an automated pen testing. So if you're really looking more into improving your blue team use cases, and this one, I would say BAS should be your approach into that one. Mike, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're going to skip through the use cases here for time and jump to our next question here. I'll go back to Rob, and this is the kind of human versus machine question: is the BAS and automated pen testing replace manual penetration tests?
Yeah, this comes up a lot. It's a natural question, right, when you start talking about automation. But the short answer is no. They don't replace manual pen testing, and they're not meant to. What they do is allow you to get more value out of your red team and pen testing resources by automating the repeatable, scalable parts. So automated pen testing, for example, it's simulating attacks scenarios that are complex, pretty close to what a skilled pen tester would do, but it still operates within a pretty well-defined scope. And what it doesn't do is improvise or adapt the way a human would in a live pen test. And BAS, on the other hand, is bringing something completely different. It's asking, would your tools catch an event? Is it doing that correctly? So if anything, these tools actually elevate the role of manual pen testing. So red teams can focus on the really complex, creative, contextual scenarios that automation just is not going to be able to replicate. So you can think of it like this. So automation handles program width and humans handle depth.
That makes sense. Okay. We've got question number 7 here. I'll go back to Suleiman here. Which approach is better, or which approach better supports readiness and continuous coverage against emerging threats and threat group tactics? Suleiman, can you hear me? I think you might be muted.
I'm sorry. This is another good question because when it comes to staying ahead of emerging threats and threat groups, breach attack simulation has a clear advantage, especially regarding the speed and continuous coverage. But in exploited vulnerabilities, automated pen testing has also an advantage. To understand why, let's first consider how quickly the threat landscape evolves. Organizations like CISA regularly release critical security announcements, and they highlight 2 major type of risks. The first one is non-exploited vulnerabilities. They are specific vulnerabilities actively being targeted in the wild, and adversary activity alerts such as ransomware, malware, or threat group alerts. And this is exactly where BAS excels, because BAS platforms rapidly integrate the latest TTPs, latest tactics, techniques, and procedures, including exploits, infiltration methods, post-exploitation techniques, micro-attack techniques, and detailed campaigns from threat groups. And in fact, for example, for PICUS, advanced BAS solutions often guarantee that these updates within a 24-hour SLA. So you are validating defenses against active threats literally the day, at the same day they are identified. So of course, this does not mean that automated pen testing doesn't have a crucial role here. It certainly does. It's extremely valuable for understanding the impacts of these non-exploited vulnerabilities and ensuring your team understands how attackers might chain these vulnerabilities together in a sophisticated attack. So the key difference is frequency and breadth, because automated pen testing offers identifying exploitable vulnerabilities in your environment, but BAS gives your team continuous, immediate assurance that your security controls are up to date against evolving threats and adversary behaviors. And for sake of time, to sum it up, BAS is your frontline tool for continuous near real-time validation and readiness, rapidly adapting to emerging threats and threat group tactics. And automated pen testing complements this by validating deeper exploitable scenarios and impact for non-exploited vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Suleiman. Okay. I really like this next question. Rob, I'll shoot this over to you. Can I integrate my CTI, cyber threat intelligence, feeds into the BAS or automated pen testing platforms?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it gets right into the heart of, threat-informed defense. And this is where BAS platforms really shine. So they're designed to work with threat intelligence feeds to actually help build these simulations so that you're mirroring, the TTPs of actual threat actors. So if you're doing that, it's a clear dance partner, and it's really closing the loop between, threat intelligence and how you're doing your control validation. So it's about really understanding how to operationalize that data in a real world environment to get an understanding of what really is going to impact your particular environment.
Okay, very cool. Well, the next question is a perfect follow-up. So, Volkan, I'll hand this one over to you. After knowing that we can import the cyber threat, how about moving on to playbooks? Can we import our red team playbooks and custom payloads into these simulation platforms?
Yeah, definitely. What we see, like that's a very common question. Maybe not small organizations are asking because they're looking into point and shoot kind of tools. Hey, what do you have as the playbooks or the threats in breach attack simulation or the campaigns you have in automated pen testing? That's perfect. I want to really point and shoot, done. But like as the operator get more advanced, mature, or they want to really grow their expertise, they're saying like, hey, I want to interact. I want to do my extra thing in the platform on top of what you guys has been providing. Everyone is asking for provide me the base content, like the up and running content, but I want to do my extra mile. So that's the reason we get those questions. On automated pen testing, you can definitely configure the plugins and the payloads. Like you want to do brute force, what's the parameters, what you want to do, you don't want to do, you can definitely configure that one. But so to say, in an automated pen testing, you cannot really, hey, here's my C2 technique, here is my rat tool, I want to really deploy that one. No, it doesn't work in automated pen testing. It's like a very fragile system. You don't want to really get into that environment. So it's like a bit only you can configure what's provided as you in the interface. But on the breach attack simulation, definitely you can configure the built-in simulations, but also it gives you an opportunity to write from scratch. You want to customize anything, you want to customize the C2 communications, you want to customize the remote access trojans, like you want to put your tooling there to do the C2 communication or lateral movement techniques, that or your any TTP you developed. So we have good number of consultants or good number of red teamers who is putting their tradecraft into implemented in the Picus. So it becomes also human nature independent, because like the red teamers can also change organizations, but organizations can keep that intelligence, that know-how in part of their tool set in their processes. So definitely BAS is there providing you a vast flexibility in this sense. Mike,
excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Morgan. Okay, we're going to skip through this for time. Question 10, we'll go back to Rob here. How well do BAS and automated pen testing reports support compliance efforts?
Yeah, so compliance comes up a lot, whether it's ISO or NIST2 or PCI or something else. And the good news is that both BAS and pen testing can support compliance, but they do it differently. So BAS is looking at, and it's more closely aligned with compliance frameworks. So you can see mappings to things like MITRE ATT&CK, NIST 800, ISO 27000. And that makes it easier to show auditors internally or externally, not just that you have controls in place, but those controls actually work against relevant threats, right? So you have demonstrability there. Meanwhile, automated pen testing is useful for looking at requirements like PCI DSS, and it has the exploit-based reporting that's going to show you what the real vulnerabilities are and real identified attack paths and what you're doing about that. So it's not really control centric, it's more exposure centric.
Okay, excellent. We're going to continue on. So question 11, I'll go back to Suleiman here. How do BAS and automated pen testing differ in identifying security gaps and providing actionable recommendations?
Thank you, Mike. Of course, both breach attack simulation and automated pen testing aim to strengthen your security posture. So, but they each do so in distinctly different but complementary ways. Let's talk about breach attack simulation. Breach attack simulation identifies gaps within your existing security controls and configurations, and you can imagine BAS as your early warning system. So quickly detecting if something isn't quite right. So we mentioned perhaps your IPS missed blocking an exploit attempt, or your SIM didn't trigger an alert on suspicious behavior. So these are control-specific gaps, and that might indicate misconfigured settings, outdated or disabled signatures, or insufficient detection rules. So what's powerful about BAS is that it doesn't just highlight this gap. So it's not only in the problem side, it's also in the solution side. It immediately gives you clear, actionable steps to fix them. For example, if a web attack slips bypass your web application firewall, the BAS platform would tell you exactly which rule to enable or update. Of course, this feature is only applicable for PICUs. We provide vendor-specific prevention signatures, also detection also. So BAS might recommend turning on a specific IP signature, for example, or fine-tune a SIM rule, or give a new SIM correlation rule. So you can exactly understand which setting to adjust in your NG firewall or EDR or SIP. So essentially, BAS provides a fast track to remediation by pinpointing precise adjustments or new signatures or new rules in your security control. So let's contrast that with automated pen testing, because in automated pen testing, it approach gaps identification from an attacker's perspective. So it actively tries to exploit vulnerabilities and uncover the exact paths attacker would take. And for instance, automated pen test might demonstrate how a missing patch combined with weak credentials and, for example, a misconfigured permission can give an attacker domain administrator access. So the findings in automated pen testing are detailed, as Volkan has shown, and technical, and ranked by exploitability and potential impact. So, but the actionable recommendations are directly tied to this exploitation path, not the security controls, like patching vulnerable software, securing accounts, or hardening specific configurations to shut down demonstrating attack. So, automated pen testing essentially answers the critical question, like, could an attacker actually exploit this, and how urgently should we fix it? Together, these two approaches form a comprehensive security validation strategy, because BAS excels at quickly detecting gaps in security controls and giving immediate control-specific fixes, while automatic pen testing provides deeper exploitation-driven insights and prioritizing remediation based on attack paths and exploitable vulnerabilities.
Okay, thank you. We're getting short on time. We have a couple more questions to go through, so we can speed through these quickly. We'll skip through the vulnerability management cases. Rob, I'll shoot this one back over to you if we can move through this one quickly, and that's how to breach and population automated pen testing enhance or complement our existing vulnerability management process.
Yeah, fully address this one is probably about a 10-minute answer, but I'm going to deep dive and focus on something specific here. And that's in the context of BAS. BAS can verify whether you have compensating controls that can mitigate vulnerabilities that can't be patched right away. And that's a huge deal, because let's say you have a critical CVE, but you can't patch it because of an operational constraint, an absence of a fix, or if the fix would be disruptive, or if you just don't want to for some reason. BAS lets you test whether your firewall, your IPS, or what have you can effectively neutralize that risk. Now, you also bring in pen testing into this to a degree, because you can look at whether or not there's actually a path for an attacker to be able to exploit that. So you can actually start deprioritizing what otherwise would be a quote unquote critical CVE by virtue of not being able to access the device or the system to be able to execute a exploit. So it's also worth noting that in some recent Gartner research, that an analysis of 2023 exploited vulnerabilities, CVSS mediums topped the list and was equal to criticals, highs, and lows combined. So it's not just criticality that matters. What matters is how your system's set up, what your environment looks like, and how your controls are laid out, and to be able to highlight where you can actually go do this and not actually have to patch. It's not about patching, it's about managing exposure. That is the important part. And even as categories are created and destroyed in this market, BAS in particular is going to remain foundational to this type of solution.
All right. Let's see what we can go through here. Thanks, Rob. All right, question 13. We'll go back to you, Vulcan. How does attack path provide prioritization to my exposure management program?
Attack paths are really A, hype, B, adding value, because like for its definition, it's just relating one gap to another, and those relating gaps can be on the control effectiveness, vulnerability, weakness. They can be like a layered cake, and in the layered cake, it's really how the adversaries think about starting with an enter point and moving into the objective there. So there are like two approaches looking into attack paths. The first one is automated pen testing, is doing it really executing that one, as we show in the demo. As I presented, like it started on an endpoint, you start the simulation, and it's just navigating the network, really discovering and exploiting vulnerabilities or misconfigurations or exposed credentials. That is how it's building the attack paths. On the breach attack simulation side, the approach is, hey, like we are learning information on the BAS side through the integrations and through running attack simulations on specific agents. But from that, all information blended in, as Rob mentioned, like pulling all the data in, we can, Picus can also build simulated attack paths. So maybe like your OT network is sensitive, or your ATM network, or your executive network, or your server network is sensitive. You don't want to run pen test automation in those networks, but you want to really leverage what can be done on those networks. So you can use the simulated attack paths on that part. That's an excited feature we're going to be releasing in the coming months. So we are running an early build program. I'm very excited about simulated attack paths. But I'm just stopping now. I know we are over time, so let's go ahead and really be sure that we don't keep the audience late for their next meetings.
Okay, thank you, Vulcan. I do want to get through this last one because we did cover a lot of ground here with a lot of different topics. So this will be a good one to finish on. Unfortunately, we may not be able to get through the live Q&A, but we will try and get answered questions. We have emails from those who did submit. So we're going to go through it and kind of what's the recommendation, the recommended way for an organization new to security validation to get started. This is some, it can be a little bit intimidated, I would think. So what's the best way that you guys would say to get started with this, sort of stuff? And Suleiman, I guess I'll hand this one over to you for our kind of closing question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really practical question, covers all the things. So I would recommend organizations using a phased approach, manageable approach, to smoothly integrate BAS and automated pen testing into their existing security operations. The first step is clearly defining initial objectives. So organizations should begin by setting clear target goals. For example, are you most concerned about improving patch prioritization? In that case, automated pen testing might become a primary focus. Or perhaps you are looking to boost your SOC's detection and prevention capabilities. Then BAS would be ideal. So after defining your initial objective, the second step is starting with BAS to quickly gain broad visibility. Why? Because once your objectives are clear, BAS is the ideal starting point. It's safe, easy, quick to implement, even in production environments. And the most important thing is It's like repeatedly turning on the lights across your entire environment. So you start with BAS to cover broader environment. And then you can follow up with automated pen testing to validate attack paths. You can start small. As you become confident, you can expand its scope more broadly. And then you can, in step 4, you can start to integrate your findings into existing processes, because both BAS and automated pen testing deliver actionable insights, but the real value comes from incorporating these insights into your existing security workflow. So you can integrate BAS alerts, for example, into your ticketing or SIEM systems, or an issue trigger, for example. In the last step, you need to expand and scale incrementally as your maturity grows, because you don't feel you have to do everything at once. You need to gradually scale your security validation program over time. You can expand at last stage BAS coverage, introduce more complex attack simulations, even your custom simulations, and you can incorporate automated pen testing more broadly. So this phased approach helps you embed security validation seamlessly into your broader security strategy without overwhelming your teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Suleiman.
Over to you.
All right. Well, guys, I think it's time to wrap up. Thanks for everyone for sticking around. I know we did try and cover a lot today. We're going to push one more final poll question to you while we wrap up, and then, gentlemen, I'll leave it to you guys for some parting words for our audience today. But on behalf of Security Week, thank you, everybody, and gentlemen, I'll leave it to you.
No, I can jump in. Mike, thank you very much. It has been a very extensive question set. So we appreciate you give us the chance to really handle that much questions. I enjoyed the session. What we discuss here is where BAS is a good fit in terms of the use cases, and on the red teaming side, what are the most strengths in order to fit your security program. And Suleiman and the team did a good job writing a white paper. There's also we were putting a use case summary of how we see the BAS and the pentest automation technology fit into red team, blue team, vulnerability management, and the purple teaming use cases. So I highly recommend looking into that white paper for deeper context. Yeah, thank you very much for everyone. Suleiman.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.